Thanks for coming on to Fika Talk on Shabbat. And you guys, so Diane Sykes and Maya Sykes.
Yes.
And so that we're gonna watch their Shabbat tradition, which Audrey and I are Jewish, but not maybe as Jewish as you. So we're gonna let you lead the Shabbat tradition and we'll watch. And then we'll talk to Diane about how she started her company.
Sounds good.
Okay, lighter's not my specialty. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu bo mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel shabash. Okay, that's our prayer.
Yay! Okay, so we'll follow you as you sit down. So do you do Shabbat every Friday night?
I say we don't do it very regularly.
Yes, rarely.
Wait, what, Audrey?
Then we'd also do it the next day on Saturdays, also Shabbat.
Oh, you would?
Yeah.
Okay. Audrey's actually going to the temple. That's where you go, Maya, for her Sunday school as well.
Oh, good job.
But we're just not as far along as you, obviously. Not only since you've been bat mitzvah, we're joining a little late too.
Yeah, I joined in 3rd grade, so it was like later than most people too.
Yeah.
I, full disclosure, never got bat mitzvah. Both my parents got bar and bat mitzvah, but I've been able to go through it by watching my daughter and son. It's an amazing process.
Yeah, I never did either, and my dad did, but my mom didn't. So my brother and I were just. So anyway, I'm kind of along for the ride on this one. But so Diane, tell us about how you started your law practice and what is it called?
Okay, so my law practice is Diane S Sykes Attorney at Law. I have my office up on 43rd and Southeast Woodstock, which conveniently is about 1.5 miles from my house, and that was by intentional design. So I never really thought about private practice. But I had been working for a government agency, the Oregon Department of Justice. I had been tasked with setting up a civil rights unit for the department. And once that was completed, I started to look at what my options were going forward. And frankly, my husband, Nathan, who you know well, it was very clear to him that what I needed to do was to start my own practice. And he posed it as, do you need a boss? After so many years of practicing, I realized that no, if anything, a boss at times can be an impediment to your goals and aspirations. And so that led me to take a leap of faith and start the practice in 2013 in September. And I'm coming up on 7 years in September of this year. And I can truly say, like, time flies when you're having fun. This was the good
You're having fun still. That's good. So now how did you start it? So Nathan thought you should start it, your husband? What's that about?
So I had left DOJ and was plotting my next steps, and it was the beginning of the summer. So I had a couple months to decide, and I had a couple job opportunities in front of me, and I was having difficulty applying for the jobs that were the natural next step. And when I asked him, like, what is the problem? Why can't I get myself to execute, to put these applications in? He said, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. And I said cavalierly, oh really? Well, what am I supposed to be doing? And that was his suggestion, and he was right on.
Wow. It's just interesting to see. I'm curious to hear all of our stories and see how similar they might be, and that it might be that a spouse is kind of helping and behind it. Or not supporting like doing the work, but giving the emotional support for the reason behind it. So,
this is somebody who's known me and met me in law school and knows me probably better than most people. And, for him, it was clear, having come from a family, my background is my mother and my stepfather had a clothing manufacturing business in Los Angeles, and they call it in Yiddish the schmata business. And that was what they did. And so I must have reserved that somewhere in the back of my psyche, because the business aspect of it came very naturally. You know,
So
I learned,
what kind of law do you practice?
so at this point, almost exclusively plaintiff's employment, and with a focus on discrimination, all of the protected classes, including whistleblower claims. So sex discrimination, you know, different terms and conditions of employment, or harassment or retaliation that you experience as a protected class, whether it be woman, race, national origin, you know, sexual orientation, disability, and started to focus somewhat of the practice on federal employees because I came to find that that was an unmet need within the legal community, the civil rights enforcement when it comes to federal employees who work for federal agencies. So that's an aspect of my employment practice that's somewhat unique.
So Maya, how old, or you might not remember, but how old were you when your mom started her business?
I think 2013. It's 2020 and I'm 16. 8.
So do you remember?
Around there.
Well, in general, what do you think about her business now? Or what do you think about your mom being a bit, not only a business owner, but a lawyer that helps other people?
I think, well, to go more with like generally, I think throughout my life, I've just had a very strong example set for me, and it's created pathways that I wouldn't have necessarily gone with because I have, I would say a lot of judgment has been passed on me, giving me like a very specific way of a mom should be. And like the idea that stay at home is like a very prominent option in this neighborhood. So I think defining our relationship and like having the opportunity to have such a role model who helps people every day, I think has really been ingrained in me, like the idea of helping other people and that I myself can be independent and create my own path in the ways that she has, which I think has been a great influence in who I am.
Mm-hmm. So Audrey's writing down questions.
I don't get a big head.
Audrey, yeah, just come on, Mom, you're not that great. And speaking of really quick, before Audrey's going to ask some questions, but before we kick it to her, we all live in the same neighborhood. So Maya mentioned our neighborhood, and I just have to say that Maya and Diane live exactly behind us, right behind us. So we share a fence, and the boys used to scramble over the fence to see each other. Now they're too lazy. They don't even leave the house, but so Audrey, what are your questions? She's writing them down as you're listening, or as she's listening.
I probably, so what do you want to be when you grow up?
Me? I mean, I guess you're already grown up. But right now, I have very different pathways that I'm looking into. So I'm interested in social work and psychology as one, just because I'm very interested in mental health and I like helping people. And I feel like that could be an interesting route as something I've dealt with. And then another one that's very on the other side of the spectrum is I very much enjoy coding. And I've been to internships, so either maybe going into like cybersecurity and something like that. So either like two very different work paths, but both seem very intriguing to me at the moment.
But you could start a business with either of them. I mean, you have to start somewhere. You have to start being employed, like both your mom and I did. But then, do you have any questions about that?
So after like you're employed, do you want to try and create your own business?
I think I've always been very independent. So I would had to have the possibility depending on which one I go to. However, I do like the idea of working with people. So probably my dream would be to have some part of ownership, but still be able to work with other people, which is similar to what you do is you have ownership, but you work with other lawyers. So I like the aspect of that, just like communal, because I like working with people.
Yeah, because it's boring by yourself. So Diane, do you partner with a lot of other lawyers or?
So right now my office is myself and my paralegal who's up at the front, and then I rent an office to an attorney who does a totally separate practice for mine. But with respect to my caseload, I will, depending on the case, co-counsel. I have found that, as what you were referring to, some level of isolation by being on your own as a solo practitioner, and time has proven that my model is good and sustainable, and I, make a living, and I have flexibility that I wouldn't otherwise have by just being myself and a paralegal. But I will weave in attorneys to co-counsel cases that are large in scope. If it's a small mom and pop operation, I'm probably going to proceed on my own. But if I'm looking at a large employer and a very heavily litigated case that's likely to go to trial, then I'll usually incorporate in an attorney who's a friend and colleague who does similar work to myself. And then I get that hybridization of ideas and the social engagement aspects of it. But as a solo practitioner, I do have to make more effort to network, and that somewhat comes naturally to me because I am a people person. That I make sure that I stay plugged into the legal community and meet with people who are doing similar work or doing the other side of work that I do, to keep those connections, and that often leads to referrals.
I was going to ask, how did you get your first clients, and then how do you continue to get them now?
So I think at the time that I started the practice, I had already been practicing law for 15 years or more. And so people know you, and it's a very small legal community. I went from being a legal aid lawyer for 10 years to a government lawyer doing civil rights. And so people know me from the community. So fortunately, and I'll knock on wood because superstition plays a role, that I've been lucky enough to have 100% referrals of cases and have not had to advertise, which is nice. And then I can kind of provide a gatekeeping function that when I'm moving to a lighter caseload, then I'll open up intake, maybe do a little bit more social networking, going out in the community. But once my plate is full, I'm shutting down intake and I'm drilling down on my cases. And that's a fluctuation that happens over the course of the year.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, did you have any question? You wrote it down, right? Ask it.
No, I haven't gotten it
Oh,
yet.
okay. Did you have something, Maya? Or
I was just saying the family can tell at the different points the cycle is on.
Oh, like how busy your mom is?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was gonna ask,
You can elaborate at risk that I say so. Feel free to elaborate on that.
I think they're just the different parts of their cycles has their own gifts.
You mean is she more stressed when she has a lot of clients or when she doesn't have clients?
Well, she's a very hardworking person, so when she doesn't have a lot of clients, she's like, I'm not gonna ever have clients again. And then when she has a lot of clients, she's like, this is just a lot. So then you can tell throughout the household. However, you know the cycle and how to treat the cycle.
Oh, really? You should give my daughter some tips on that. Or I know we're kind of crazy in our house too, because we're self-employed, so we bring it in the home, and now we have no choice because the kids are at home and we're just working. It feels like we're working around the clock, but we're not. I mean, we have our kids and we do what we need to do, but we're just working a lot. And sometimes I wonder how that affects the kids. Not that, but there's nothing you can do.
Yes. It's been interesting because Nathan's been here at the house, working remotely. And, today I just dedicated today exclusively to sanitizing that office because I'm not bringing anybody in to do it. And so today was a deep cleaning by myself, bonanza. But right now my paralegal and I are alternating, and our tenant's not coming in really, but at least that space is a place I can go. And the gates are locked and I'm doing work in there. But it's definitely been interesting here with the kids out of school and spring break, and how that's going to play out in the long term is interesting,
I know. So you don't have, so I have a 10 and a 13. You have 13. And how old are you, Maya?
16.
Yeah. So you're not, not that we have to be that hands-on with Audrey, but I sometimes feel bad when it's like I look up and it's been like 6 hours and I barely communicated with my child. So and when they're at school, that's one thing, they're entertained or at least they're using their minds. So do you have any plan on how to handle that, especially with Drew, because he's younger and he's not going to be on the same online program of learning that Maya would be on because they're at different schools?
Like, we have online school for all day, and we like video conference with our teachers, and like have our assignments. So.
And it's like they're on it, right?
Yeah.
They had so many
it.
meetings. I was like, they were like prepping and doing, like, we had like half days because they were like prepping. I was like, this is ridiculous. It's never gonna happen. Like, I remember my Spanish teacher the day of, she's like, you're acting like it's the last day of school and you're 6-year-olds. And I was like, maybe it is the last day of school. And she's like, that's never happening. And then that evening we got the email. So they were very prepared from the get-go. But
yeah. So for people that don't know, Maya's school was the first to go off to take the school online, the first to shut down school in Oregon.
To announce, and other schools followed suit. And also, we started the series of preparations first, but a lot of it has to do with that we do have access to technology.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, doesn't everybody get an iPad?
Yeah, we're an Apple certified school. One of the perks.
Right. So that's something to be said about, that St. Mary's is a high quality education. If I had any reservation going in now, I am convinced that this was a blessing that, now Maya's really reaping the benefit from.
No, I'm good.
So with Drew, it's a different story. And, Drew is fairly self-motivated, but, I'm working on a trusting relationship with him that he's accomplishing what teachers are sending to him, through email. But my plan is starting next week to start to supplement, what he's getting from his teachers with Khan Academy. And I have 2 neighbors here who are homeschool parents. One's out of town, but I'm going to start inquiring about different programs that are high quality, that just giving a few assignments a day to keep them moving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We just need to add a little bit more, just some enrichment. We got a few things from the teacher, but also I'm not sure how long that'll take him to do. So I'm just thinking how can we stretch out this day or this moment? Like walk the dog, but take a long time, please. Because I need to take the day up. I don't need you in front of the TV all day.
Right. Drew has channeled that to skateboarding. So it is out in front, built a skateboard ramp, that's a lot of what he does during the day. And I am surprised that we haven't come to a point yet where he is so frustrated and bored that, we're starting to see the outgrowth of it. But we're going to avert that next week by hopefully putting some structure in place.
Yeah. So I guess two last questions to kind of wrap it up is, so I'll lead with Diane's question, and then maybe Audrey can think of a last question for Maya.
I have one.
And Audrey has one. But so for Diane, so I just want to say that for people who are listening or thinking about starting their own businesses, they might think, well, a lawyer and her practice is not relatable to me because that's so specialized. But I just was wondering, it's from what you're saying, your parents are business owners, so it seems like setting up the practice is the same as possibly starting any kind of client-based business, if you take out that extra education and specialty. Is that right? And if so,
I think there's a basic infrastructure, that you have to, I'll talk more generally, that you likely need a business bank account. So you need to approach your banker and set up a business with a line of credit. And right now, because of the COVID-19, Small Business Association is receiving large amounts of money, grants, to support business owners and their applications for that. So that people should look at that who have existing businesses who are going to need to make payroll or mortgage payments, or to pay some of the healthcare costs that are now an obligation under the current law that was just passed. But, starting with your bank, getting a line of credit, getting your business licenses for the city that you work in. So here, City of Portland, you have to get a business license. You have to register with Secretary of State, Oregon, as a business. You need to get a federal identification number to run as a business, get a good accountant, that's important, a QuickBooks program, and a couple different methods to be able to check your books and make sure that they're consistent. Every profession has their own software program. For me as a lawyer, it's a program called Clio that helps me to account for my client funds. And usually, depending on your practice area, there is usually a practice manager. So for lawyers, it's the professional liability fund, where there are people who help you to set up systems in place to run your business, and then networking with colleagues in your area of interest, asking them how they've done it as a starting point is what I would suggest.
Yeah.
It's a big thing for us. Like, we had a while where you had enough supplies and things to set up the little things that we had to find to get it ready, like a 3-hole puncher that you that took a while.
Wait, you remember that, Maya? You're saying that she had to find that and you remember that?
I remember very clearly helping, like, because obviously I couldn't like be her accountant or like help her set up her payroll, but I was like, I'm a whopping 8 years old. I need to start providing.
Let me tell you what Maya did before I had the office. I set up the home office. Maya helped me at 8 years old to paint that office space to make it a peaceful, productive space. But when I moved over to the other office, she developed a conflict system for me based on her technology skills. You know, you have to do conflict checks and so Maya uploaded all of my files and created a very intricate conflict system for me that would be the envy of most lawyers. So you should tap into your family members and youth, particularly with technology.
Well, yeah, but let me just say, if they're Maya, you really should tap in, because this, for people who are watching, you don't know, we go back a ways, our families, and I went to the middle school tour, and Maya was in charge. I mean, it's like other kids were in charge, but like Maya was in charge, right? And so I looked at Maya and I told Mike, I was like, I want to hire Maya to be my boss. Because, you know, being a self-employed person who I'm my own boss, sometimes I need a boss. And I think maybe Maya can be my boss.
Yeah.
You're making me blush.
Yes.
Yeah. So what were you going to say?
I just remember seeing her at like St. Mary's basketball games there.
Yeah, I remember seeing it.
It's always fun seeing Maya, especially in action though. But so what was your question for Maya?
Oh, okay. So my question is, like, was there any instances when you were like a boss or like a captain of a sports team or like running like a lemonade stand or something? And did you have fun with it?
I've always enjoyed being a leader or bossing people around, just because I have very strong opinions and I like making a sense of community and helping out, which I learned from her. And I've always like sought after leadership opportunities. So like in elementary school, I was the mayor of the fake city that we had where we went. And in I've been ambassadors in both my middle school and my high school, and student council and all sorts of like opportunities like that. And I really enjoy them because I think having a lot of people's inputs from different perspectives can be really valuable. And it just is very enjoyable for me because I like spreading the knowledge I already have, like because I know a lot about St. Mary's, so why not try and like it a lot, so why not try to get people who will enjoy it as well.
Totally. Yay. Well, thanks, ladies. This is so fun.
Yes, thanks for connecting.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing your tradition with us.
Yes. Well, anyway, stay well and stay healthy, and thanks for plugging in.
Oh, your doggy.
Yes, he's a big part. So,
yeah.
He's the office mascot.
He is.
Oh.
Every day. And all the clients know him.
Yeah, we have a couple of those. Well, thanks, ladies. Thanks for sharing your stories with us.
All right,
Thank
take
you.
care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.